This recording. So, hello everyone. This is Michael Gummel from Paradigm Technology Consulting. We're very happy that you have elected to join us today uh, with our PTC Monthly ISV Spotlight Series. Today we have Griffin from Professional Advantage, who is going to walk us through a couple of their products. For those of you on GP, he is going to hit the collections management and data archive functionality. And for those of you who are on BC or interested in BC, he's going to talk about their Collect 365, which is essentially collections management for BC. So just so everyone knows, we do have a few polling questions that we will be going through today. If you are looking for CPE credits, you will need to answer those polling questions. Everyone is on mute, but we do ask that if you have a question, please pose it in the chat window, and we will review those. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to turn it over to Griffin.
Perfect. Thanks, Michael. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Expand that PowerPoint. All right. So as Michael mentioned here, we're going to be walking through a few different modules that Professional Advantage offers, both on the GP and Business Central side of things. Again, my name is Griffin Swanson here at Professional Advantage. I'm the channel product manager for our company. What we're going to start with here today is just doing a little high-level overview of who Professional Advantage is. We've been a Microsoft President's Club member and certified partner for several years now, going back to the 90s, where we've actually developed the collections management module. We have now expanded not only into the GP space, but also the Microsoft Dynamics 365 space, helping over 6,000 customers globally, expanding from our Australia offices to the UK and London, all the way here to the United States. So you can see the three products that I've highlighted off to the right-hand side. Those are the products that we'll be focusing on in today's demonstration. Now we're going to start on the collection side of things. As Michael had mentioned, we have a new product on the Business Central side that is called Collect 365. It is essentially trying to mimic the collections module that we've had in GP dating back to 1997. As some of you may or may not know, we developed the collections GP module in 1997, but Microsoft took that product from us under an OEM agreement from 2001 to 2012, and they included it as a core GP feature for over a decade. In 2013, they did ship the module back to us, and we've been developing it and supporting it ever since, with over 2,500 customers using the module today. But the reason I mentioned that is because Microsoft reached out to us in 2020 and basically said, hey, can you guys make the exact same product for Business Central? And while some things are certainly going to look different, being that they are different ERPs, the goal is the same here when creating Collect 365. Limit the amount of downtime that you spend collecting and making your collection processes smoother and allowing your team to communicate all within one module. So we are going to focus on the collection side here to kick things off. I'll start in GP and then move over to BC before we transition to the other module, which is going to be our archiving module, again, for Dynamics GP. With collections, one thing I like to mention before I really dive into the module itself, showing you that within the ERP is some of the main problems that customers see today. I'm going to do this from a high-level overview, being that we are trying to fit in three products for today's webinar. But ultimately, three of the biggest issues we see are customers with a lot of decentralized information, especially on the GP side of things. There's a lot of decentralized information throughout. So what we've tried to do is centralize the important collection information from one main window, where we're going to allow you to create notes from that main window, which essentially act as follow-up tasks for your collectors. We also see a lot of inconsistent follow-up with customers, and that's largely due to manual communication. So our collections tools do provide some collection plans, which are essentially automated practices that process actions based on the due date of an invoice. And then bad debt and cash flow. This is really what we're trying to improve, right? We want to reduce your bad debt and improve your cash flow. So we have some performance reports throughout the product. In GP, we also offer a DSO calculator that allows you to track your days sales outstanding over time. Not something that we have in our collect module for Business Central today, but that's definitely on our development radar. With that being said, let's hop into the demonstration here. Like I said, we're going to start on the GP side of things, and then I'll transition over to Business Central.
And actually, Griffin, before
Now,
you do that, let me just
yeah,
launch
go
our
ahead.
first poll here so we can get this poll going. Everybody should be able to see the poll. Griffin, can you see it there?
Absolutely. Yep. And I
Okay.
just submitted it myself as
Yep.
well.
So, in which bucket is the majority of your AR? Less than 60 days, 60 to 90, or over 90? So, again, if you could go ahead and submit those answers there. And what I like to do is I want to make sure, again, everybody needs to answer the poll questions if they want, CPE credits. So, typically what I will do is before we close off the poll, we'll just give a quick 10-second countdown just to let everybody know. So we'll go ahead and start that countdown. So again, if you do, please respond to the polls. If you don't see the poll, it may be in your chat, so you may need to go over to your chat button and get it out of there. But we're going to close this poll in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, and just so you know, Griffin, it looks like it's kind of split between the less than 60 and the 60 to 90 days. So just to kind of give you an idea there of what people are looking at in the poll. So with
Perfect.
that, I'll
Well, for
turn it
those,
back over to you.
yep, for those attending, that's probably a good thing if it's not over 90 days. So good on your guys' behalf. With that said, like I said, we're going to start on the GP side of things here, and then we'll move over to BC. And what I want to kind of do here is just compare and contrast the modules a little bit. Like I said, we're trying to make our Business Central collections tool basically the exact same as collections here in GP. But one thing I want to show you guys here before we dive into the first feature is the sales area here within GP. If you were to install collections management, most of the features and functionality do reside here within this sales area. But I do have a number of shortcuts here on my homepage. And again, being that we are showing 3 modules in today's webinar, I'm going to give you a high-level overview of this. I want to show you a high-level overview of both the day-to-day collections that we offer, as well as the automation practices. So we're going to start here with the collections main window. So this is really going to be the command center. It's great for ad hoc inquiry. And what we can do is we can actually select a customer from our list within GP and focus in on that individual customer. So we'll keep it simple here today and go with Aaron Fitz Electrical. As I mentioned in the PowerPoint, there's a lot of decentralized information in GP today. And so what we've tried to do is grab what we thought was important from a collection practice and centralize all of that within this main window. And so really what you're looking at here is these fields that we have on the main window are being pulled right from core GP. Again, we wanted to ensure that our product was very flexible with that. Anytime you make a change within GP, collections will recognize that for the customer and populate that information here. So we can see things such as the address ID. If you need to collect from a customer at more than one location, you're going to be able to do that. You can see the last time that customer made a payment and how much that payment was for. And you can also see their year-to-date sales, typically telling you how big of a customer you're working with. You can also see their aging buckets pulled off to the right-hand side. Every time you run an aging routine within GP, collections management is going to recognize that and update these aging buckets here. You're also going to be able to see the total amount due. This is going to be the amount that you've invoiced to the customer, and you can see what they owe you there. You can actually drill into this total due window here and see those invoices more specifically. If you scroll down here, you can see some other sales numbers. You can see the credit limit for that customer, unposted sales, unposted orders, and unposted cash. We also have a total amount outstanding here, which is the sum of what's been invoiced to your customer as well as unposted sales and unposted orders. So again, really just highlighting the receivables and the amount owed to you all from this main window here. But what happens when it comes to following up with these customers? How do we do that? We're going to do that from the actions that we offer at the top of this main window. So for starters, anytime you guys want to create a new note on a customer, you're going to be able to do that from scratch in the top left-hand corner of this window. But just to give everyone an idea of how these notes actually work, let me pull open one that I've already created. So once your users create the note, it is going to save the date and time the user created it. You're also going to be able to see the caller ID here. That's the GP user or collector who's actually created this note. Now you can see by default, it's going to populate some information for the customer that typically matches up back with the main information here on this main window. And we can also put note text within this. Now, typically what we'll see customers do is manually type this verbiage. However, you could copy and paste email conversations in here as well. This particular note, I spoke to Bob Fitz. Bob said, hey, I'm going to make a payment by early next week on a couple of invoices. So then what I've done here is I've said, okay, Bob is promising to make a payment here. So there's a number of different actions that your team would be able to set up, really particular to your collection needs and practices. These are all configurable or editable. So you're going to be able to set those up to fit your collection practices. But again, I went with a promise to pay there because that's what Bob said he was going to do. And then what I wanted to do is set up a follow-up action date here. So basically, if those invoices that the customer said they're going to pay on go past due, this action date then leverages the note into your task window, telling you that you need to follow up with them again. We'll drill into this task window in just a couple of minutes and show you what that looks like there. You're also going to be able to attach the invoices that the customer said they're going to pay. So you open up this collections management transaction window here. I have 2 invoices selected already. And once you select those invoices, it's automatically going to default that action amount to the total amount that the customer said they're going to pay. However, this is an editable field. If you're collecting from a customer and they come back and says, hey, look, I can't pay that $3,000 today. However, I do have $2,000 that I can make as a down payment. You can change that action amount to the amount that they said they're going to pay, and then follow up on the remaining amount with a different or new note, or you can mark the status here as a partial payment, put a note down here at the bottom, what the customer still owes you. So once you've had a note created here, you can see the different statuses that we offer. If it's open, that means the invoices have not been paid. Once those invoices do get paid, we can mark this note as complete. And then if for any reason we need to cancel a note, we have status reasons for that as well. Now, a common question I get here is, okay, do I really need to manually complete a note every time an invoice is being paid? And the answer is no. If we go into this this task window, again, basically showing you your to-do list as a user, we offer this mark completed button at the top. You can see we give you a little description there. But basically what this does, it goes through, finds all of the invoices that have been fully applied in GP and automatically completes these notes or tasks for you. We have some customers who are processing thousands of invoices a week. It's not even realistic for them to go through and manually complete those notes every time an invoice is being paid. So this feature is very beneficial to those types of customers, but all of our customers should be taking advantage of this. Now, since we're in the task window here, you're going to be able to kind of customize this as you feel fit. If you want to come in here and just focus in on your individual tasks as a collector, you're going to be able to do that. However, if you wanted to leave that blank, you could do that as well. And then that would show you all of your open tasks as a company. So maybe you have a collector who's out on vacation. You want to make sure you do the follow-ups for that user. This would allow you to work on other people's tasks. You can also set different action dates here as well. Basically, what I said was, show me all of my open tasks prior to July 1st. I then get that task list here down at the bottom. If I wanted to, I could mark these as complete by hitting this checkbox here. I could also review all of my completed tasks as well. But again, the mark completed button is really the main feature and focus here, allowing you to spend less time focusing on what's already been completed. This feature takes care of that for you. From this window, you're also going to be able to send a one-off email to the customer. Let's say you're following up on some of these past due invoices here. You reach out to the customer and they say, yeah, send us those invoices here if you can today. This window here is going to allow us to send a one-off email. If the customer's maintenance card is set up with a contact and email address, I can add that right to the window. I can also manually type those in as well, copy in, or blind copy anybody here. Now, we do allow you to set up different email templates or what we call collection letters. That is definitely something that is completely customizable. I'll show you guys how to do that here in just a minute. But just to give you an idea of how that would work, you can see once you select a template, and then it then populates the verbiage from that template within the body of the email. But we have some functions in here as well. We want to make sure that those get populated. So the first thing I want to do here is I'll go, okay, here's an open transaction list for that customer. I can see the invoices that they owe us. Let's attach a couple here today for this email. What I want to then do is click this blue refresh button. That then populates the functions within that collection letter. If you wanted to attach anything without outside of GP, you're going to be able to do that here as well and browse through your file explorer. Now, let me quickly show you how to set up those collection letters here. We are going to hop into the sales area quickly. Scroll down on the cards. You can see a lot of the collection items are being set up here. Focusing in on these collection letters, you can see it is completely blank. You have all the freedom in the world to set these up as you feel fit. You can see once you put in a letter ID, it opens up the fields within this window. So there are, again, a completely blank, and you have all the freedom in the world to create these as you feel fit. However, we do predefine some things in here for you if you wanted to take advantage of that. For starters, you could attach a specific group of invoices to this email. Let's go with overdue invoices here today. You can copy in or blind copy the customer salesperson. And then we give you 5 major functions here to include within the body of that collection email. So maybe you started off with some customer information, make that letter sound a little more personal. Now you can type whatever you want inside of this collection letter. You also have the ability to put invoice details in here, really the primary focus of collection letters. You can see a lot of different functions for the invoicing. We'll stick with the overdue theme here today. And then maybe we wrap it up with some collector information so the customer knows how to get a hold of us. So a very basic template there to give you a better idea of how this would work. And you kind of saw it within the collection email. You do have the ability to make these a lot bigger, put in a bunch of verbiage if you wanted to. And for customers who are just getting started, we actually provide a list of sample data for you, populating a list of collection actions, collection letters, and collection plans to help your team get started with the product. So that is how you send a one-off email from there. And that is essentially the collections main window. Again, doing a high-level overview of the demonstration here today. If you wanted to see a full front-to-back collections demonstration in GP, let myself and Michael know, and we would be happy to show you that. The full collections demo in GP typically lasts around 45 minutes. Before we hop over to the BC and Collect 365 side of things here, I do want to show you what our collection plans look like as well. Basically, these are automated collection plans here. And I'm going to populate one that I've already created. From a high-level overview, basically what these do is they process actions based off the customer's oldest outstanding invoice. So you can see here in this good customer plan, we're processing that 7 days before the invoice is ever considered due. What's happening is we're executing an action called soon due. Now, you're going to be able to drill in and focus in on some of the little nuances that come with this, but basically this is a collection letter that the customer gets. So you're going to be able to review that information and then have those collection letters automatically sent. And then what it does is it takes your customer through the steps in this plan as long as their invoice has not been paid, going all the way into the last step here, which you do have the ability to create up to 20 steps. But once your customers reach the last step, we basically give you 2 options saying, hey, we're going to keep repeating that last step, reaching out to the customer maybe every 30 days, telling them their account is on hold. Or you could have the plan stop suggesting next actions. In that case, your company would have to determine manually what you want to do with the invoice for that customer. But again, going back to the idea of if you're a customer who's processing large volume of invoices a week, these automated plans are very beneficial to you. But again, all of our customers should be taking advantage of this because it just eliminates the downtime that you have to spend collecting. Right, so with that being said, again, the high-level overview of our collections tool from GP today. I want to transition over here to Business Central and give you a high-level overview of what this product looks like. And again, I won't sound like a broken record here. I'll try to keep things simple and kind of compare how these things work within BC, just like they do in GP. The one thing about Business Central that is different is the settings that we get to set up here as a role. So I personally set myself up as a collector here. And by doing that, this is the first window that populates when I drill into Business Central. And we're calling this the Collection Role Center. So as a collector, what I can see here, the first thing when I drill into Business Central is my collection activities, telling me I have $56,000 that's already past due. I have 2 pending notes or follow-up tasks that are soon going to be due. I have 6 that are already overdue, so I probably want to follow up with them right away. And then I can always review my completed notes or tasks from there as well. And I'll drill back into this here in just a few minutes, but I want to show you how those get populated from a collection note perspective. One of the cool things about Collect 365 here is we give you a full customer list from our Collect 365 hub. So when we drill into the hub here, I get my entire customer list, and you can see those 5 customers here. But maybe as the admin collector, I say to myself, I really don't need to focus in on these 2 customers. I just want to focus in on my individual customers. We have a number of filters that are built within Collect 365 and tailored back to Business Central. So you're going to be able to filter on things like this. So for example, I can say, show me just my customers as the admin. So then I get that list there. We do highlight some payment statistics in the customer's aging off to the right-hand side. But that is just a high-level overview. If I want to get more specific with these customers, I simply just need to drill into their number. That's then going to populate some general information here, which is basically information that we're pulling right from Core Business Central. I can see the contacts that we're typically working with when it comes to collecting from that customer. And I can see their active notes down here at the bottom. Now I can look at things such as their balance that's due. I can drill into this as well, which is going to pull open their customer ledger entry windows, showing you the invoices that have gone past due. Now, ultimately, the way that my demo environment is set up is the balance due is everything 91 plus in these aging buckets. Convenient for me, but obviously it would be more dispersed based on each individual's customer settings. This is just how my demo environment is currently set up, but ultimately very relatable here. If we drill into the aging buckets as well, again, you're going to see it pulls open those customer ledger entry windows, showing you the invoices that have gone past due. Again, we've made Collect 365 very compatible with Core Business Central, so you're going to be able to drill into those invoices from this window, see those line items, and the total amount included for that invoice. All right, great. So Collect 365 shows us our past due and upcoming invoices. How are we actually following up on those invoices? Just like you do in GP, you can send a one-off email or you can create notes for those invoices. Let's start on the note side of things here. What this does is it shows you your most current or open note. But you can see we have a number of note revisions here as well. So this would allow you to see the history changes that have been made to each individual note. And you're going to be able to process that here from the top of the window. So what you can do is close any one of these notes, include the closed or canceled notes from the past, or include old revisions. So once you do that, you can then see it's color-coded as red when it's a historical note and black when it's the most current note. So I might say to myself, why did I make such a big change here from December 8th to February 10th? I can go back and drill into this particular note here. You notice all of these fields are locked because we don't want you changing something that's already considered historical, but you would be able to review the notes and the history changes made over time. So you can see with each click that I make here, we're just going through the next revision. But what if I want to make a change here on the most current note? I can also do that as well. You notice here we have an edit field. So these are locked by default. But if you wanted to make a change to this here, you simply just need to click edit and make the changes at that time. So we'll just make a simple change here. All right, so now you can see note revision number 29. Go back to this window and that new note has been created. Now it doesn't stick like this once you've included that old history. If you leave this window and then drill right back into it, you can see it's going to populate just the most current note. If you wanted to create a new note, you're going to be able to do so from scratch here as well. So you can see the date and time the user created it is populated automatically. You're going to be able to create Collect 365 actions in your environment as well. We'll keep this simple here today with a reminder number 1. And then we'll put a follow-up date. Let's just put it for this Friday, 2 days from now. Now, what I can do is I can actually attach invoices to this note, just like we do in GP. But the beautiful thing about Business Central is they're going to highlight the ones that are already past due for you in red here. But again, that's the way my environment is set up. Let's go ahead and select 2 here today. You can see once you select those invoices, it's automatically going to populate the total amount due based off of the invoices you've selected. And then you'll see those populated down here at the bottom as well. So again, we'll just put testing on webinar. Testing for PTC. All right, so we have a follow-up. We have invoices attached. I now have a new note created. I'm going to drill all the way back here to the collection role center. You notice nothing has changed. But if I refresh this page, I now have a new pending note telling me that I'm going to have to follow up with this customer in just 2 days. And then again, you're going to be able to see your overdue notes here as well, telling you, hey, these are already past due. We need to follow up with these guys right away. And then if you ever need to review your completed notes or tasks, we centralize that in this window too. Going back to the Collect 365 hub, I want to show you how to send a one-off email. Do that here from the communication tab. And the cool thing that we've just added to Collect 365 is allowing you to attach statements to your collection emails as well. So you're going to be able to set up action IDs, you're going to be able to set up collection letters, as well as statement formats. Now, just like you do in collections for GP, these are basically email templates that you're setting up in advance. So if I select a letter here, this one is forcing invoice copies. That's something that will be a setup option for you when you're creating these collection letters. And then I can attach whatever invoices I want to down here at the bottom. Now, again, if I wanted to attach something from outside of Business Central, I have the ability to do that from this window, browse through my file explorer, and attach anything from here. So let's just go ahead and select a PDF. You can see it as a PDF here, and that is documented. I now have one external attachment outside of Business Central. All right, so everything looks good for me here. I can then email that letter. It is going to draft this email for you to review before it gets sent out. So I can see here who we're sending this to, where it's coming from, and then I can see the verbiage for that collection email. Again, you're going to be able to modify this if you wanted to. You can add some of these editing options within the Collect 365 email as well. Make the letter make a little more prettier if you wanted to. You can see the invoices that we've selected down here at the bottom. You are going to be able to review those PDFs before they get sent out. And maybe you say to yourself, hey, wait. I included a PDF here that I did not mean to attach. You can simply delete it at that time. Now, once you've gone through this email draft here, you can send it at that time, discard the draft, or if you go to leave this window, we're basically going to give you those same options saying, hey, do you want to keep this as an email draft in your outbox, or should we discard the email at that time? Now, I did send myself an email here already, just to give you an idea of how that would look like from the client side. Very basic template, but again, you can see the PDFs that were attached. Your customer is going to be able to drill into that, review those line items and invoice details, as well as the other contact information down here below. So that is the collection one-off email there from the Business Central side of things. Last thing I want to show you here before we move over to Company Data Archive is quickly building a query. And one of the first problems we've seen with customers doing their collections today is finding the customers that they should be calling first. That's because a lot of customers using these ERPs collect using an age trial balance where the customers are sorted alphabetically, not by collector. So both in collections for GP and Collect 365 for Business Central, we have the ability to create queries. And again, I'm going to do a high-level overview of this here today, but ultimately you can see there's a lot of different filtering options here and fields that we can focus on to build a specific customer list. So we have some customer filters there. These are honestly pretty straightforward. You can include things such as balance filters here as well. Maybe you want to exclude customers if they've made a payment within the last 30 days or whatever that may be, exclude customers with recent payments, et cetera, et cetera. Down here, you're also going to be able to have document filters. This is going to allow you to focus in on specific aging periods, document dates, as well as due dates. And again, this is all very, very customizable to where you can get a specific customer list based off of the restrictions and criteria that you've set up within this query window. So I've kept a very simple one here today. Basically said, hey, show me all of my customers as a particular collector. So once I've done that here, then I can see the customers that meet that criteria, and then I can process this. So I can query those results. I can see the 2 customers here that meet that criteria. You notice every time I select them, the invoices are changing down here at the bottom. That's showing you the invoices that are owed to you from that customer. And then from this window, you can communicate. You can say, hey, I want to send an email to the customer that is highlighted or just the one-off to this particular customer. You can send a mass email to all, and you're also going to be able to create notes for these customers. But ultimately, this kind of eliminates the idea of sending customers who should really be receiving the same thing. So the example I like to use is, let's say you build a query here that says, hey, show me a customer who's got invoices from 90 to 120 days past due. So you get a list of 20 customers back. Rather than sending those 20 customers the same one-off email over and over and over again, you can build them in a query like I just did. You can select all the customers that you want that email to be sent to, and then bulk send that email all at one time, again, versus doing one-off emails over and over again. All right, with that being said, that is the high-level overview of Collect 365. At this time, we are going to transition over to Company Data Archive.
And before you do that, Griffin, let's just see, are there any questions anybody has on either of the collections products that Griffin just reviewed? If so, please put them in the chat or the Q&A. I'm looking at both here. While you're thinking of that, why don't we go ahead and launch our next poll, which is going to lead us right into the Company Data Archive. So we're going to go ahead and launch this poll. Hopefully everybody can see it. Griffin, can you confirm that you can see the poll there?
I can, yep.
Okay, great. So how many years of historical data do you have in your current company database? Less than 3 years, 3 to 5 years, or more than 5 years? So again, if you can go ahead and submit that, and we'll get our responses here. All right. And it looks like we're getting the majority of the responses coming in here, so that's great. Griffin, just so you know, it looks like it's pretty much split down the middle between 3 to 5 years and more than 5 years. So sounds like some of these people could really use this Company Data Archive tool coming up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really what we're seeing, Michael, is anyone who's been on GP for 5, 10 plus years, whether you're organizing your historical data or you've seen real performance issues, this is right in the ballpark of customers that have been using our product.
Yep. All right. So again, we're going to give the quick 10-second countdown here. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're going to go ahead and close off that poll. All right. So Griffin, go ahead and take it away.
Perfect. We're just going to do another quick PowerPoint here for the Company Data Archive product as well, give you a little background information on that. Company Data Archive is a module that we've developed in-house here at Professional Advantage, one we've had for quite some time, and one where we've seen over 1,000 installs of the product. And with those 1,000 installs, we've really seen it used on a wide variety of database sizes. So we have some customers using the product here today who only have 1 to 2 gigabytes of data, really using it from an organizational perspective. But when we have some really large customers using the product as well, close to 1 terabyte of data, those types of customers typically see more performance issues. But again, a wide variety of different customers using the product with those 1,000 installs. And here are the 4 main benefits to archiving your data. You're going to be able to streamline your database, which ultimately improves processing performance, whether that be standard day-to-day GP performances, running reports, inquiries, or smart lists. By archiving your historical data, you're going to see your standard GP performance improve pretty substantially. You're also going to be able to do faster GP upgrades as well. What we typically recommend to customers is perform an archive before you upgrade GP, and then upgrade your archive database at more of your leisure and downtime. Ultimate goal here, though, is optimizing your disk space. That is what we're trying to do here with Company Data Archive. By optimizing your disk space and removing that historical data out of your production company, you get to see that increase processing performance. But let's go ahead and hop into this GP demo here. Want to ensure that we have enough time at the end to take Q&A for all 3 of these products. One thing I do have to do here quickly, though, everyone, is switch over to my archive company. You can see I'm currently in my production. That's where I got to show collections. But the beautiful thing about this, it is a very straightforward process when it comes to switching between your archive company and your live company. So we do have a number. I don't have a number of shortcuts here on today's demonstration for CDA. However, we do centralize all of the features within the admin window here. And so the first thing I wanted to show everyone is our Company Data Archive data distribution and sizes window. And what this allows us to do here is calculate the number of years that we've been on GP, showing us the disk space for each year. Now, I'm just going to calculate the last 5 years here, everyone, for my environment. And do bear with me, this is my demo environment, so I don't have a lot of data in here actually, but ultimately you can see it breaks down each one of those years that we've just calculated for, showing us the disk space for each year. Now, the cool thing about this is I can actually break down each one of these years, showing the actual modules and the disk space within those modules. If I want to go one step further, I can actually break down each module, showing the row counts within each of those. Now, to get a more visual representation of this and saying, okay, great, how do I actually know which modules I should be archiving? We can export this data here into Excel, and that would give us that visual representation. So I have an Excel document here that I want to populate for you guys to kind of give you an idea of what that would look like. As you can see for this customer, their data was growing exponentially by year. And it made sense for them to archive their general ledger data, receivables management, sales order processing, and maybe some inventory. So the product is going to let you pick and choose which modules you want to archive and their cutoff dates. For example, let's say your team wanted to keep 5 years of general ledger data in your live company, but you only needed to keep 2 years of receivables data. You're going to be able to slice it that way, and the product really gives you a lot of flexibility there. And now I'm going to show you that in the actual archiving window. All right. So here is the archiving window in itself. Now, running this process and kicking it off is pretty straightforward. I do want to run through all of the fields that we have inside of this window. And then I have 2 features that I want to touch on right after this called the Company Data Archive Registration and the Company Data Archive Scheduler. So just keep in mind, everyone, once we finish up with this window here, I'm going to drill directly back into those 2 features. But starting at the top of this window here, we have the destination company. This is going to be the archive company which you set up, where all of your historical data is going to be transferred to. You notice here that's just matching up with the archive company that I'm currently logged into. The next thing that we're going to do here then is select the originating company. This is your live or production company where all of that data is coming from. Now, the two things that we need to keep in mind here when it comes to archive. Number one, we can only archive historical or fully applied data. And number two, all of your historical data needs to be met by this archive date here. So you guys are going to be able to specify that yourself, saying, okay, I want to archive everything prior to this date. Typically, what we see our customers do is they'll leave anywhere from 2 to 5 years of data in their live company and then move everything else into their archive company during that initial archive. So for example, here, maybe I put in a cutoff date of 2015. So everything on and previous to this date then would be subject to archive, again, as long as it's in the history tables. So we get to choose to archive then by the document date or the GL posting date. The GL posting date is for companies who are GL centric, posting in their fiscal period. We see most customers use this option, but if you go off of more of a calendar date, you would be able to use the document date as well. Directly below that, you have the ability here to print a detailed report. It's not required, but it's highly recommended that you have that option selected. That's going to give you reports of data that did come across or didn't come across during that archive. And then below that here, you can see the core GP modules that we have the ability to archive, followed up by a transfer and remove column. So these here essentially give you three options when it comes to archiving your data. Now, the first and by far the most common practice is to have both columns selected. It's the most general sense of archiving. And what we're doing is we're transferring this data from our live company into the archive company, and then deleting or removing that data out of your live. Second option we have there is running a transfer only. So that's just making a copy of the data from your live company into the archive company. Now, some of you might be sitting there wondering, okay, well, why would anybody want to do that? We'll see customers do it as a verification process. And so what I mean by that is you could run a transfer only, go into your archive company, make sure that everything you've transferred was brought across successfully. You can then come back in, run a transfer and remove. It is not going to duplicate your data the second time that you run a transfer. Again, it's just verifying that it's already in the archive company before removing that out of your live company. And then the third and final option we have here, running a remove only. As you can see, by default, we are not going to allow you to do that. And for obvious reasons, right? We don't want customers coming in here, especially during their first initial archive, and just start deleting or purging all of their data. However, in this registration window that we're going to drill into shortly, there is a checkbox option in there that would allow you to purely delete or purge your data. I'll go into more detail as to why once we drill into that registration window, but again, by default and best practice, we are not going to allow you to do that. We also give you the ability here to transfer master data. The master data would be anything under the cards or setup menus within GP. This is not required every single time you perform an archive, but we do highly, highly, highly recommend doing that during your first initial archive. But once you've done that, we understand that the master data isn't changing nearly as often as your transactional data. So rather than copying that data across every time you perform an archive, it is optional, as you can see here. You also have the ability to transfer user-defined tables. Basically, if you wanted to bring something across to your archive company that doesn't reside in these core GP tables here, you can use this option that allows you to enter in the exact SQL table name. So what we can do is we can enter those one by one, or as you can see, there's a little asterisk character there that is acting as a wildcard field. So all of the tables in your live company that begin with those characters there, they would be subject to archive for you. However, there are two restrictions when using this option. Number one is not date specific. So whatever cutoff date you set for your archive here, it is going to ignore that. It is also going to just transfer the data. It does not remove any of that data. Again, it's a simple transfer of the user-defined tables. So keep those in mind. A lot of times we're not seeing huge amounts of data in our customers' third-party tables. So generally, customers are not worried about that. However, we do have some customers who want to be able to both transfer and remove third-party data. And so we do have a feature for that would allow for that. You can see here I'm demonstrating our CDA professional version for you today. We do have an add-on called CDA Plus that then opens up the idea of being able to both transfer and remove third-party data, and that would show up under the additional products. Now, once your team is ready to start an archive, you're going to click Process here. It is going to remind you to do a backup just in case anything happens during the archive. During this process, it is going to enable the pause and resume button here when archiving payables and receivables data. Below this pause and resume button, we're going to give you an estimated time remaining for that archive, and we're also going to show you the number of blocks of customers or vendors that have been archived as well. I'll go into more detail with a couple of those things once we get into the registration window. But before I do that, a couple of recommendations here. Number one, we do recommend running this during your off-peak business hours because the archive itself does take up a lot of SQL resources to run this process. And then number two, we are going to recommend that your users are logged out of GP. Once you guys have run that archive, we do keep a history trail or a history log of every archive you've run. So if you drill into the destination company here, you'll be able to see that archive log and review those archive statistics. You can also drill into the details tab here, showing you the number of records that were transferred and or removed. All right, so two more features I want to show you here, everyone. Need about 4 more minutes to do that. We'll have a little bit of time for Q&A right there at the end. First one is going to be that registration window here. Towards the bottom, you can see we offer some other archiving options. For starters, let's talk about this checkbox here that would allow you to remove data without transferring. So again, basically giving your team the ability to purely delete data. We don't do that by default, but every now and then we get customers who reach out to us who do want to be able to purely delete data, so we make that option readily available there. You can also set a minimum cutoff date here as well. So if you know that you don't want anything touched or archived, let's say in your most current 2, 3, 4, 5 years, you can set a minimum cutoff date there as well. And you'll also be able to change the number of customers or vendors per SQL transaction. Two things to note here: the larger the block size, the faster your archive will perform. However, the larger the block size, the longer it could take to stop or pause the archiving process if you needed to do that for any reason. So just know when you're archiving the payables or receivables, the tool does need to complete the current block of customers or vendors it's archiving before that process can be paused. All right, so we just walked through the archiving process itself and how to do that from a manual perspective. But this scheduler here, it's about a 3-year-old feature now, so I've stopped calling it a new feature, but it really is the future of our archiving module. This essentially allows you to schedule your archives in advance. So you can set a fixed cutoff date here, just like you do in the manual version of this. You can also set a rolling cutoff date as well. So if there's a specific amount of data you always want kept in production, you can set that up there. Document date, GL posting date, and the printed detailed reports, that all functions the same, as well as transferring and removing the modules. The difference here, everyone, is again, you're scheduling this in advance. So you can see a Sunday through Saturday schedule down here at the bottom. This would allow you to get very specific with those archives. You can say, hey, I'm running this from this time on Monday. Let's go ahead and continue that through Tuesday and Wednesday. Or you can modify that time as well at any given one of these days. Again, it is completely flexible based off of your archiving time or down hours rather. We have some customers who are using the module who are 24/7 as a business, and it's really complicated for them to find downtime to run the archive. I did a demo for a customer, for example, who only had from midnight to 4 a.m. to start and stop that archive. Well, obviously nobody wants to be, around at midnight stopping that archive or starting it, or rather be up at 4 a.m. to start and stop it. So it's, again, very beneficial to those types of customers. but all of our customers should be taking advantage of this. Even if you're picking away 2 to 3 hours Monday through Friday, that time can add up very, very quickly. All you need to do then is queue up the archive and it will start and stop based off the times that you have suggested here. All right, everyone, that is going to wrap up the demonstration here today. Again, want to thank everybody for taking the time to review collections, Collect 365, and Company Data Archive. Also want to thank the Paradigm team for having us on here today. Michael, I will turn it back over to you, but I did want to mention here, everyone, we are offering a 20% discount on any one of the features, or excuse me, modules that we demonstrated here today. If you're looking for a quote, reach out to Michael and myself, and we'll be able to get that for you.
Very good. Thank you, Griffin. So, we've got a couple last polls here, real quick. I'm going to launch this one. This is a very easy one. Do you need CPE credits? Yes or no? So, if you can go ahead and submit that. All right. Give everybody a couple seconds here, and then we'll give the countdown. Got a couple more quick polls, but as we're going through this, if you do have any questions for Griffin, please feel free to put those in the chat. We've got a couple more minutes here left. All right, so we're going to go ahead and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we'll go ahead and close off that poll. And then let's do one more poll here. There it is. And so, are you interested in learning more about Professional Advantage, any of the tools, either the Collections Management, Collect Pro, or Collect 365, or the Company Data Archives, or any of their other products? Please let us know. And question or the options there are yes, no, yes, but not right now. So you may have some, some questions out there, but right now might not be the exact time. But just let us know, and we can reach out to you when you have a chance there. So go ahead and give people a couple more seconds here, and then we'll do the countdown. Again, please, if you have any questions or anything like that for us, please put those in either the poll or the Q&A, so we can get to those. I see a couple coming in here, so let's go ahead and we'll give the countdown on the poll here. So we'll do the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, so let's go ahead and close off that poll. All right, very good. So let's go ahead and take a look at any of the questions that are out there. All right, we got a couple questions here. All right, so Griffin, one of the questions came in here. Are we able to use our own email addresses to email out of collections, or do we need to use a standard company email address?
Completely flexible, and that's for both products as well, both collections for GP and Collect 365 for Business Central. If you guys wanted to use your own emails as an individual collector, by all means, you're going to be able to do that. We also have some customers who prefer to kind of have a centralized collection email, and so they'll do that as well. But it is completely customizable to you guys, can use either or.
Very good. All right. And then I think I got one more question here. It appears that we do anyway. Let me see if I can get to that. Actually, let me go ahead and I wanted to share out one of my screens here. Oh, why is this not showing up over there? There we go. All right. There we go. There we go. All right. So the last question here that I see is, and this is a good one because I'm sure this has happened in the past. What happens if we accidentally archive something we didn't mean to archive? Can we archive data back into the production company?
Technically, yes, you can, but if you were to do that, you'd probably be in a small subset of customers who are be able to do that successfully. We highly recommend trying to archive back from the archive company into production. What we would highly recommend at that point then is just taking the backup that you did before the archive and starting the process over. So again, I don't want to say it's impossible, but we highly advise against that just because it's a very, very tricky process. The backup is a lot safer practice to take.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. So, all right. Well, again, coming up against the top of the hour here, so I want to be mindful of everyone's time. Griffin, thank you so much for putting this on today. Thank everyone for joining us, whether you've joined us live on this or you are reviewing this later on our YouTube page. Again, any other questions, there's our contact information. Please feel free to reach out to us, and we can certainly answer any questions that you may have around the professional advantage or anything else around GP or BC. So with that, I again want to thank everybody. Thank you, Griffin, and thank you everybody else for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having us on, Mike.
All right, very good. Thanks, everybody.